Hey everybody, welcome to the after sermon, and it's a chance for us to sit down with the communicator and talk a little bit more about the message that teacher just gave us. And I'm here with Doug.
What's up,
Pastor
Eric?
Doug. Hey,
Hi, everybody.
I loved this message. We just launched into a brand new series, and you spent some time, honestly, talking about something I think that gets skipped over a little bit, and it is the prophetic, the prophecies that were answered through Jesus' birth.
Yeah.
And there were lots of them. But here's my question. Why did you decide to start the series that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think every time we come around to this time of year, you're like, well, what's going to be the angle this year? And we landed on the idea of one day because of what we do with our missions offering, and we've called it One Day for years. And I was praying about that and just thinking about, well, it is one day that changed everything.
Yeah.
But it's not just one day. It's this whole story that is connected throughout the biblical narrative. And sometimes we forget, again, because we're so familiar. And I wanted to just kind of conjure a sense of awe for some. They probably knew of many of these things that are in the Old Testament, prophecies that were communicated hundreds and even thousands of years before Jesus showed up. But I just want us to have a sense of awe and that wonder as we head into like just feeling the bigness of the story and that God has details handled. And so many times in our lives, we wonder if he's paying attention. Does he know the details in my life? Does he have these things kind of figured out? And for us to see that in the prophecies, I think just was a great way to kick off our Christmas series together, and for all of us to just be reflective of a God who has details covered and makes promises and doesn't just make promises that are idle, but follows through with his promises.
You repeated a line throughout the teaching that I think kind of caught my attention around God being a promise keeper. That wasn't the exact phrase, but God is a promise keeper.
Yeah.
Why does that matter today? Like, why is that so important for us to understand as it relates to all of these prophetic answers?
So I feel like that's part of the reason why all this stuff is included in Scripture. I think so that we can see the connection between the Old Testament and the New Testament. Same God, same characters, same promise keeper that continues into the New Testament as well. And I think those things are all part of the narrative for a very intentional and important reason. And that's that today I can know that he was faithful then and he'll be faithful today.
That's huge. I was thinking about that when you were preaching that. I think so often we skip through these things that are like, oh, well, that part of the narrative doesn't matter very much to me right now. That was thousands of years ago. In fact, it's not just 2,000 years ago. The first prophecy you talked about was 1,400 years before that.
Yeah.
So you're like 3,500 years ago. But I think what really matters is that piece where you begin to understand like, oh no, see, we know this history because it reminds us of who God is, not just then,
right,
but right now.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
What was the one prophecy as you were going through this that really stood out to you?
I mean, there was a couple, I think, that hit me as we were going, but I mean, you can't deny the virgin birth, right? Like if I said, that's a shot caller right there. That's a big one. You don't, that's no idle one that you can kind of work your way around, right? Like it either is going to be or not. And so that one, of course, catches our attention. I think the names of the cities and, it just continues even throughout Jesus's life and the narrative of his story and his time here and the consistencies of things that were promised and were foretold. So yeah, there's so many of them, but those I think are the big
400.
Yeah, like many theologians, depending on how you classify those prophecies,
right?
And some feel like they're repeated. So upwards to 400 of them all throughout the Old Testament narrative, where the prophets spoke of things that were to come, and they did.
Yeah. When you think about a lot of where we are in terms of a Christmas season, right? Which, it's rinse and repeat in some ways, right? Yeah. Where we find ourselves back at Christmas every single year. I think I love the metaphor of one day because That was not the case. Christmas did launch 2,000 years ago one day, but before that, we're talking about hundreds of years of silence. There was no answer.
Right.
And I think so often we think that our past isn't important when it comes to like God's provision, that somehow what happened in those 400 years didn't matter. And your message to me was a reminder, oh, no, your past, all this stuff you've went through, God doesn't waste it. He is like, it may feel like you're in the middle of the 400 years of silence, but the reality is like God is faithful. He is going to show up. I don't know when, I don't know how, but he is going to show up because he did. And I love that.
Well, in that, in order for these promises to be fulfilled, there was an awful lot going on behind the scenes for hundreds and hundreds of years to make these things happen. And there's no way. And that's important for me. That's important for us. As we land, Christmas is a unique season where some of the feels are a little bit more raw, and the good is more exciting sometimes, and the challenges are definitely more present, and you're just aware in a different kind of way because of all that is the, gatherings and all the things surrounding Christmas, reminders of those that we've loved that have gone on and are with Jesus today, or whatever it might be, illnesses, those kinds of things. Like it's just hits, but God's still in the details. He's still I need to be reminded of that. He's in the details.
Well, and this is why your last call was so important. In the message, you talked about how we now become, in so many ways, this is how I sort of translate it, God's tool to a world that needs to be reminded that God isn't done with them, right? We become missional in nature. Tell me why, to speak more to that.
Here's what's interesting. So if all these promises are true for the people we know as well. And they just need to know the promises. They need to understand this God as we understand him. And so in God's divine order of the way it all worked, he planned for Doug and Eric and for all of us to be a changed life that will go and be part of seeing other lives changed. It's on us. We have a responsibility there. And again, if we've become so familiar with the story that we forget, for many people, there's like this kind of, I wonder what this is about. And it has to be more than Santa Claus and gifts and all the lights and all the things. Why do we celebrate to such an extent this particular holiday? Well, it is what we're talking about this week. Our God is faithful. He did what he said. Emmanuel is with us, and he can be with you in your life. And I want to invite you into this journey of learning and expressing and understanding what that means. And so that's a beautiful gift that we've also been given, that with over the hundreds of years and thousands of years that God's plans have been unfolding in this moment, 2025, Eric has a responsibility. Doug has a responsibility. We all have a responsibility to carry his message, his promises to those around us.
I love that. Well, and this year we have a unique opportunity. Lots of Christmas Eve, Christmas service times. How many are there?
9. No excuses, unless you're having knee surgery. No excuses.
He's having knee surgery. What are the, do you, so we have 3 on Tuesday? And what would that leave the math? 6 on, you can find them online. If you go online, you can find the time. But
Eric's really good at math, by the way.
Very good at math. But that's the invite, right? That
it is.
I mean, it could be as simple as an invitation.
Totally.
So
Totally. Keep those cards with you. You never know. Put them in your car, have them at work, put them in your bag, whatever backpack. So you have them. Invite some people to come. 9 services. Let's fill it up and tell people about our Jesus that is a promise keeper.
Man, I love it. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
thanks.
you bet.
And thanks for joining us. It was a wonderful message. Great way to kick up the series. And if you want to catch the whole message, a couple ways you can do that. You can go to our YouTube page and you can watch the whole message, or visit one of maybe your favorite podcasting platform and you can listen to the message. I think it would be a great way to kick off this Christmas season, thinking about a one day that changed everything. It really did.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. See you guys.